Hey everyone, Mike Miller, Herald-Times, coming to you from rainy TCF Bank Stadium here in beautiful Minneapolis after a 38-31 Indiana loss to Minnesota. That was as ugly as the weather here. You're on a rainy, dreary night, dreary all around if you're an IU football fan. After watching what was certainly for three quarters the worst performance this program has put forth under Tom Allen. Just a sloppy, really poorly executed defensive game. Indiana's offense was Indiana's offense, just not able to make up for any ground loss by a bad defensive game. Although to its credit, back against the wall, fourth quarter, Indiana authors a 22-point comeback to tie the game at 31. But ultimately, this game ends much the way it started and much the way it played throughout, and that was poorly. Indiana was, bit on the play action. Juwan Bird just got beat deep on a double move and 67-yard touchdown in the waning moments of the contest. Ultimately doomed Indiana here in their first trip to Minneapolis in a decade, actually. So, but where to begin? Defensively is where we'll begin. Very uncharacteristic performance. You had a game where some of Indiana's best players were not playing well. It was a really particular tough night for Jonathan Crawford in the defensive backfield. Marcelino Ball left the game with an apparent injury about midway through, late in the first half. And more than anything, it was the slant routes, or the post routes, whatever. I mean, it was just seemed whenever Minnesota wanted to go over the middle, they could. That was there and was open to them, and it was available for pretty much darn near the entire game. It was just something that Indiana struggled to compensate for, and even knowing full well that that's what Minnesota was going to do, actually stopping those throws and getting in front of or cutting off those routes proved to be too difficult. It was just a really uncharacteristic, weird, sloppy performance. I mean, any words you really want to use to describe this one, it was bad. It was real bad. And it kind of speaks to one of the larger issues that we've seen develop with this Indiana team, especially in these past 2 years under Tom Allen, is you come to Minnesota in a game like this, everyone knows the stakes, everyone knows that no matter that it's on the road, you're facing a Minnesota team that is reeling, it's not playing very well, coming off a smarting after a pretty thorough beatdown at Nebraska last week. You're coming here with a clear opportunity to position yourself well for a bowl berth. Generally, I thought if they came here, won this game, that would give them certainly it would boost their chances, I think, to handle Maryland after the bye in 2 weeks. But this did not look like an Indiana team even worthy of a conversation for a bowl berth. And again, that kind of speaks to the issue we've seen. We've talked about it before on Scoop Talk. It's you play close with Ohio State, you play close with Penn State. That's fine. That's all well and good. But again, those efforts never lead anywhere. They don't develop or materialize into any long-lasting prosperity and the breakthrough, whatever you want to call it, that consistently eludes this program. Those games are outliers. They never really lead you anywhere. And yet you get into these games against Minnesota, a comparably built team, and again, it was just Indiana laid an egg for a large majority of the night, and that ultimately, you say what you will about the comeback, ultimately playing poorly for three quarters in a winnable game is just not advisable. But again, it speaks back to last year. You had a similar game right around this time at Maryland that for whatever reason Indiana was just not able to get any traction, not able to command in any sort of fashion. You get to the end of the season, the entire season's on the line at Purdue, and Indiana just basically didn't show up for that one. The final score was a little misleading with the late comeback they had in that game. But again, a huge game against your rival, didn't show up for. You had a couple games earlier this year, Michigan State, Iowa. Again, just wasn't the effort that you need to beat those teams. Then you come here against a team that is middling at best in the Big Ten West. And frankly, I mean, for a good portion, Minnesota got what they wanted. They took what they wanted and they ran with it. I mean, they didn't punt until the very last possession, I think, of the third quarter. And granted, with all that, I mean, Minnesota begged Indiana to come back in this game. I mean, Minnesota had 4 turnovers. Were sloppy in their own right in the second half. Just couldn't really, forcefully close what was a very decisive, lopsided game for the first 2.5, 3 quarters. Ultimately, Indiana had that window, but again, when you play that poorly defensively, when you come out with such little sense of urgency in a game where you absolutely have to have it, it doesn't spell success in a situation like this. But again, that's the big problem that is really materializing with this Indiana program right now. It's just that you get to these games where you know what's on the line. You know that to really cement any sort of path to a potential postseason, you have to win games like this. At the very least, you have to play well in them, and Indiana just didn't do either. So, again, this is a team that I tweeted earlier. Again, it is consistently good at squandering prosperity. It's a team that, again, settled for field goals, couldn't cash in on long drives into Minnesota territory early. It's hard to win, no matter who the competition is. It's hard to win on the road when you're just settling for field goals, and ultimately kicked it into gear just a little bit too late. So this team just isn't very good. Frankly, is what it boils down to. And you can say what you will about the bye coming at the right time, and I think it does. I mean, good God, I mean, it's. I don't know that there's necessarily a fix apparent for this team, bye or not. When they've looked the way they have, the evidence is just kind of there that this does not look like a bowl team right now. It's not clear that if they can't handle Minnesota, they look this way against Minnesota, tired or not. I don't know that 2 wins really appear when you have 3 games left against Maryland, Michigan, and Purdue. So certainly this season is quickly spinning off the rails for Indiana. And again, a quick fix just doesn't really seem within reach at this point, given personnel, given scheme, given a lot of things. It's just another really disappointing season getting out of control here for Indiana after this 38-31 win in a game that everyone knew was at stake. Indiana just didn't play up to the level they needed to play well to win. I mean, say what you will, say what you want. It's just really bad night of football. Once again, just failing to rise to the moment and live up to what was at stake. So that's that. A 38-31 loss here at Minnesota. Again, bye week up next, and then IU returns to action, I believe 14 days from now. Now that it's after midnight here. Against Maryland at Memorial Stadium, second to last home game of the year. You go to Michigan, and then you host Purdue. So, again, it's hard to really carve a postseason path when you can't play well against the teams that you need to beat, teams you should beat, teams you certainly can beat. Just not a very good football team right now, and it just kind of looks like that's what they are. So, signing off here from TCF Bank Stadium, heading out into the rain. Thanks for watching.